Hello, everyone. I hope you all had a great week and you are having a greater or better weekend. And today, in our talk Weekends with Amit, we have come across a fantastic subject. And I'm sure this subject has touched your lives somewhere or the other. People just cannot live to a somewhat mature age without touching this subject. And this subject is our place in the universe. I can share my experience when I was a kid, or forget about kid. Even now, I have loved series like Star Trek and Star Wars and ET, and where there is universe, spaceship, galaxies, warp speed, all this stuff. And this is an amazing area to look at, full of wonders. Now, we want to look at this from the prism of quantum science. So, today, our speakers, Dr. Amit Goswami and Dr. Valentina Onisor, if we can have them on the screen, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome. We will be talking on the subject of our place in this universe. So to start with, again, as a formality's sake, let me introduce both of you. Dr. Amit Goswami is very well known. He is a quantum physicist and he has been part of so many interesting things, including the latest university course that he has founded. And Dr. Valentina Onisor, who has brought about a sea change in the way we look at integrative medicine. Both these personalities have contributed to the humanity in general with their work and the patients or people who require some kind of meditative or medical intervention in particular. But today's subject has nothing to do with it, or maybe we don't know. It will come out during the talk whether they are connected. So my first question would be to Dr. Goswami as usual. This thing I started to talk about, the universe, galaxies, some say that it has great order. Some even say that we are in a time of confusion. So when we talk about universe in general, what is your take from your point of view?
Okay, this is the thing. In many cultures, the universe is looked upon as a dualism, not so much anymore, but it was. For example, in Christianity, for a long period of the time, they looked at Earth as the kind of the local universe, and the rest of the universe, the planets, stars, galaxies, they are all outer space, and that was interpreted as a transcendent world of the heavens. But in the Indian spirituality, they never made that mistake. It's amazing that from the beginning, including the Vedantas, that was like 7,000 years back, the idea was that the universe is universe. Earth is just one planet in the universe, but the stars are part of it, and they're all the material universe. And they also figured out, these ancient seers figured out with creativity, great amount of insight, and what they experienced, that reality consists of a being that they call Brahman. Now it translates as consciousness. And this being includes 4 separate worlds from which our experiences arise. Material world is just one of them, but they also envision that there is a vital world from which life arises, the experiences of life arise. And then there is the mental world from which experiences of meaning, mind arise. And then there is a world of Vijnana, We now use the word archetype, which is a term that Plato began some thousands of years later, but it's a better equipped word, so we use that archetype. So the archetypal universe, which later on Aurobindo coined the name supramental universe, supramental world, and these four worlds are embedded in consciousness, which can be called the world of happiness. So initially, the world was full of suffering. Human life was full of suffering. So their objective is to get rid of the suffering, to be free of all this suffering, and how to find that world of ananda or even beyond. So these five worlds were looked upon more as abstractions, more as coverings that covered the real reality, which is an unchanging reality, which you get through development of non-attachment. Later on, that is Buddha's term, but Vedanta was already having that same idea. And that was the objective. Only later, a tradition developed which considered that maybe it is not so. Maybe the manifest world is important. And then the question was, how does the manifestation occur? First of all, consciousness itself. How do we get a self, for example, in the brain and all living creatures? And then how do we get a vital body in the vital world, the mental body in the mental world, even a supramental body in the supramental world? How do we get them? How does one get a body in any of these worlds via the experiences? So we need to understand the science of manifestation. And there, the intuitions, creativity could not give us answers because the basis was just not ready. Because manifestation requires matter. And matter is much more full of intricacies that requires technology to investigate. And that technology did not come about for another thousands of years and not until the 1600. So that's how the history went. And even then, in 1600, we developed science, material technologies developed. It took another 400 years until the 1900s. In the 1925, finally, we had the full technology to investigate the heart of matter, the elementary particles, and we discovered quantum physics. And that finally gave us the secret of how consciousness and the four worlds of experience manifest as bodies that we have. Some people in the meantime are speculating. They were saying, okay, we have a physical body, we have a vital body, we have mental body, we have a supramental body, a body in each of the universes, because that makes sense. When we actually did use quantum science to figure this out, the biggest accomplishment came with surprise after surprise. Even the self is a surprise. It's not a simple mechanism. It's a complex mechanism in the brain that takes place. And then similarly, the vital, mental, all those things have to be looked upon as in the hardware software concept that we are very familiar with today, thanks to computers. Matter gives us hardware, and then how matter functions, living functions, that gives us the vital software, and then the mental functions brings mental software. But even there are subtlety. For example, the first body we get is not neither the physical nor the vital independent bodies. The body is really vital, physical vital, hardware, software. And similarly, we get a vital, mental, physical that involves the brain and involves also the body. Vital, mental. So how do you get that part? That's the emotion, positive emotionals, software plus the body hardware, the chakras, the organs are the heart, organs are the navel, and the brain. So, positive emotional software. We have negative emotional software already in the brain. So, that's the emotional body. Together, these two things. But the positive emotions really require the supramental to build. So, positive emotional body is not really a uh, ordinary body, it's really an archetypal body. So, we have that archetypal body. So this is a fantastic discovery because now we know all the details by which we have the bodies, and we never have known such details before. So because we have the details, every science, health science, social science, science of economics, everything has to adjust to the fact that we have not one but five bodies. Let me count them again: physical, vital, that's the first body, and then the emotional body, negative emotions, that's the second body, and then we get the purely mental body, just the mind and the brain, mind represented in the brain, mental memory, and then we get a supramental, positive emotional body, which is also called soul in the West, so we have preserved that name. And then finally, all of that in the totality that we call the body of bliss or consciousness itself. So then questions open up. Suppose we have the bodies that we have through evolution. Suppose we build the body that we don't have, namely soul. And we also have, Valentina and I mostly, but others also, many other scientists have contributed crucial ideas to this development of the fantastic science of soul making. And we are right now, Valentina and I are busy to give the final form of this, which we call quantum yoga. How to build the soul, how to make the soul. And then questions arise that is really the fascinating question that you are asking, Krishna. You are asking about what is our place to universe. We feel that once we have the soul, that is our entrance requirement for the connecting to the universe. Yes, we are citizens of the universe, as the ancient people correctly theorized, our wonderful ancestors, that we are the universe, we are everything, and that includes the stars, that includes extraterrestrial life. But what is our connection? That connection we never had because before, very few of us had any idea of a complete soulmate, a made soul. Very few started with maybe Krishna, maybe he succeeded, but of course we don't know much about him. He's not a historical figure exactly. But we know a very recent figure, Sri Aurobindo. He seems to have attained something and he's writing hint at something like that, becoming a citizen of the universe. How I got into it is Valentina wrote a chapter in a book that we're writing, and she had this intuition that we become citizens of the universe, and that made me very curious. Why don't you talk about it, Valentina?
Okay, wonderful. Amit and Kishanu, I'm very happy that we finally opened this Pandora box, because as we will see as the time goes by, this subject of extraterrestrials also will come more and more. And then, of course, the question will be if are we ready for this as information, as experience, everything. And yeah, I had my own very special experiences with that, and we'll talk maybe next time or step by step. But to me, I have to say that this is the subject which truly warms my heart the most of everything. So I really feel it's very, very important. And of course, it has impact on everything. But as you know, as we grow up, all this perception of what is happening with the earth, and how can that be possible that only the human civilization is the only thing intelligent in the world? And you may, of course, even doubt about all this intelligence when we are so much on the self-destruction mode so often, right? And if you will study the book Quantum Brain, which I wrote with Amit, you will understand more about the human base condition, the level of ourselves, because we have to see where we are to know where we start from. Of course, there's all this potential that is waiting for us, but there are also the problems. We need to understand them and deal with them as it is appropriate, because of course, like how can that be possible to be or remain separated, right? The separation and all that illusion that exists on various levels is what creates disease. Krishna, you ask about health. Of course, like to me as a medical doctor also, and as a human being, the more you, you awaken all these levels of consciousness at all the levels in your being, and the more you access, at least starting with that what we call spiritual fraternity between humans, that's a huge step, right? Because it's a lot to talk about these values and problems, first of all, because we have to understand those, and eventually, of course, the prerequisite is to be able to tap into the non-locality. And of course, if we are just really dominated by these negative emotion-based circuits, given by the human condition, and you have to see all this manipulation, the competition, the domination, the inauthenticity, the mis-centeredness, right? All that violence and fear and power which exists, rational thinking, informational processing only, all these addiction circuits which exist at very deep levels, then you have to say that you start from there, Of course, in quantum science, we also speak about the quantum leaps, and even that is what is required to get ready to do these quantum leaps out of the garbage that we carry in terms of personal memory also, and that is the key. So if we are so much attached on this personal memory, and we are until we deal with that, then this cannot be done. This kind of otherwise, all that we may perceive or other may have perceived about this usual what we call experiences with extraterrestrials, they are just drawn from our memory. So it requires a level of purity, and okay, so if you think about, we had just 2 weeks ago, we had a talk about archetypes. So I invite you to check that talk, because again, Amit called them also as archetypal manifestations, right? And with archetypes, there are two types, and with form or without form. And if there are two kinds of matter in the universe, so it's not just the matter that we live in, but also the dark matter, which is actually 25% of the mass of the universe, and the visible matter is just 5%. So just try to understand, being humble also, and at the same time curious, how much do we really know, right? So the rest of that is kind of, you can say it's energy that, and we cannot get matter out of that, right? And also, again, just think of the fact that the universe is huge. There must be so many civilizations, and some of them are born in this, what is called Sambhavokaya body, okay, the supramental body. And of course, like, we are just scratching at the surface what we know about the universe, right? And also what we know about ourselves is also that saying, which is not just a saying, that the more you know yourself, and I would add, the more also you heal yourself, you can become a very good doctor, of course, but the more you know yourself, the more you really would know the person which comes in front of you, and you would know also your patients and the people around in a different way. And the more you open the possibility to really know the universe, and you open these gates of expansion, right? It takes an expansion to even think about these contacts, right? So you can think of the extraterrestrials as they are kind of, if we get to the universe, it's the big game. And they must be teasing us, because the power that we can manifest with these pure archetypal bodies we have no idea, about the interactions, and most of what is found it's speculations. So kind of it's a lot of story which is growing around them, and also you see all these movies, most of them which are misleading. And also there is maybe some military interest. Some people say, so there's a lot about that. We cannot really know, and I don't want to enter speculations right now. But it is a very important subject which will come sooner, or much sooner than you think, And we don't talk now about, of course, you heard about good extraterrestrials, bad extraterrestrials. We don't go into that. And kind of, again, pay attention to really discard all what is, can be kind of hallucinations or model like ghost laugh, which is more like the hellish realm. So just try to discard this and work with your human condition first before trying to engage. And there is even a way to engage consciously in this kind of contact. But of course, the requirement is, I would say, the capacity to really tap this non-locality, and also to be able to do this in a group. Kind of, I mean, maybe the group consciousness, it can be something which is very easy when you think of extraterrestrials, But again, not a simple curiosity, like a journalist curiosity. It has to be something more than that. And then again, to me, it's like, again, we speak about the attractor factor when we speak about the archetypes. Is the same with the extraterrestrials, So, right.
I have a question here. That is, you already, if I am not mistaken, have a group meditation with some people on this subject. The group for extraterrestrial meditation group, where you have interacted and engaged with different participants, and you collectively did something. So how was the experience of that?
It was a huge experience. It started 10 years ago. And again, we have only just a few minutes for this talk. But it started when I was kind of like at the edge of my limits. I was in a situation where it was a lot of suffering. And it was like kind of, I was not really expecting anything. And a good friend of mine, she put me in touch with the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And the subject resonated very, very strongly with me. And I have to say that really I experienced the strongest state of heart centering and home, and state of healing, which manifested ever since. And expansion, which, again, you have to, there is even a very simple method, which we may do it now or later, let's see. But I will also tell you what to study if you want to learn more about these things. Just what I want to emphasize again is still paying attention to the human condition, learn to develop all your potential as much as possible, learn to also deal with the garbage that is there. At the same time, of course, cultivate the values, which is love, which is the gate towards non-locality, right? Compassion, of course, work through forgiveness and all that. Obviously, cultivate the state of discernment, because you will receive so much information bombarding you on so many channels about these things. So discernment has to be cultivated. All that refers to the higher intelligence also has to be cultivated. And okay, so after that, after the first contact, which I had with this knowledge, and also I started to have my first experiences, I led groups in a few countries in America and in Europe. And it was each time very beautiful. But again, the key is that the group has to be as much as pure as possible. And again, create the gates towards awakening, or expanding your consciousness. It's about expanding your consciousness and about being able to be in the heart, being able, again, like I said, to let go all that personal garbage memories which is there, And it's not so difficult as we may think. And again, the ways of manifestation that's understood can be many. And for me, again, the first and always, actually, my experiences were about a state of love, which I never experienced in other ways, even if I did experience love. And I am. This is my archetype as well. But it was really the strongest experience of love, of home, and of that feeling that we are really not alone, so you come out of the loneliness when you a little bit you have this experience. But again, it requires a quantum leap to really do it. It's not about thinking, it really requires that quantum leap.
Super. Since you mentioned about there is an easy way to create or create a contact or at least prepare ourselves for a contact, I'll come back to you in a bit. But before that, a quick question to Dr. Goswami is this universal or other cosmic intelligence we are talking about, ET, extraterrestrial, the subject, not from the point of view of what you told that different bodies, five bodies, and from that angle. But I'm saying in general, if someone asks you these intelligences, uh, is it possible that most of these intelligences will be ahead of us, or there would be some civilizations will probably be in the evolution phase, not up to the mark so far? Both sides could be there.
Well, yes, no doubt about it. But one thing, let's make it very clear. I think Valentina already hinted at it. But what has to be made very clear is that, first of all, we have to get rid of these naive notions. Know very clearly that nothing physical can ever move very far from Earth. It's not possible, period. It's just not possible. People have looked and looked and looked upon ways to communicate in physical means. There were billions of dollars spent at one period under the leadership of Carl Sagan, but nothing has ever happened and nothing can be expected to happen. The universe is very huge and our rocket capacities just don't go that far, even with computers, because the crucial question is, if that were possible, where are they? The fact is that they haven't contacted, and we had billions of years. The universe has been around for 13.7 billion years. So the question then is that how is the contact happen? This is why you have to understand locality, communication with signals, that's the material, and non-locality, that's the quantum communication, just by connection. And for this non-locality, we need an entrance level of consciousness, in which, in the least requirement, obviously, is that our negative emotions must be completely balanced by these positive emotions, which soul building is what gives us that. So that's the requirement, entrance requirement. And then when you get an entry, what is not understood by scientists so far, and it came as a surprise to me personally, and I'm sure everyone who encounters it, is the fact that our organs can function at more than one level. So can the brain. So, we always think of changing the physical brain. Yes, we can rewire the brain to such extent. That's a very big hoopla about that. And I support it in general, but that's nothing compared to what we can do in terms of software. Mental software, which is what makes the brain functions, can be opened up enormously by what is called the opening of the brow chakra. Ancient Indians know about that because they talked about Kundalini rising. So it's too much to get into, but what happens is that the idea is brow chakra opens. Opens to what? A new functions become available to the brain software, the possibility of making new software. Similarly, possibility of making new software is what opens the heart to love, opens the navel chakra to self-respect. And when we awaken to these new functions, then is the ability of building this positive emotional balance to the negative. That's the entrance requirement. That's the passing the basics. And of course, you have to begin where you were. So we have to begin in the garbage if you have that. Fortunately, we also have about 15% people who don't have so much garbage. Some garbage, of course, that's the price you pay for living. So in this way, what happens is something fantastic. And I had this experience myself, although I'm just a novice. So it is very beginning experience. I don't want to make a big fanfare of it. But it's really true that I seem to have entered a new phase of life where intuitions happen much more frequently than before, ever before. And it is not just, it is not just my imagination. I have usually contributed a research subject, a new idea I have discovered, and then written a book about every 2 years. That is my usual pace. But this last couple of years, partly because of the demand created from the students of the university that we now run, University of Transformation, giving masters and PhD in quantum science of consciousness, and that's not an easy thing, and lots of requirements and books have to be written. And I was worried initially. So I was doing this with try to train a whole bunch of people, and I just couldn't because they have their own views, and it could not be done that way. I thought I have to do it. Who else will do it? But do I have the equipment? And lo and behold, I started having this enormous experience of intuitive door just opened up to me. Somehow the brow chakra changed, and functioning was kept possible. So what I found in that functioning is that it almost feels like it's not the usual way of intuiting at all. It's like you have the memory somewhere and you just remember it. Where is the memory? So this is where Valentina mentioned the Sambhogakaya body, which the Buddhists speculated long time ago, millennia ago. This is where that comes in. So Aurobindo had this idea that if you discover the supramental, if you realize the supramental within yourself, if you work towards it, at some point, the supramental awakens in the brow chakra. When that awakening happens, then you have a doorway, new doorway that opens, and that's what you intuited that wonderful day when you wrote that chapter where you have this line, we become citizens of the universe. That's when we become citizens of the universe because we're sharing in a community of non-locality that is beyond any community that you have known. Because this community needs to have correlation, local correlation before they can connect. But that community is open to us with just the intention, just that capacity that you don't have to struggle with negative emotions that spells out to other anymore. You can do no wrong to another people. That's the requirement, basically. And when you have that, you have this channel to the entire universe, to this greater community, this galactic community. And then maybe beyond the galactic community. My imagination doesn't even go that far. It's just so huge already. So this is the future. Building connections to Sambhogakaya body, which is a soul, and then question is to do it case by case. A few of us, there will be the harbingers, and then we have the problem of bringing the mass to this new level of existence called the intuitive God, intuitive society, intuitive mind. Okay, so we have to go slow as obviously prudent demands.
Great. We are a little short of time today. Valentina, can you quickly tell us if we want to prepare ourselves, how our viewers will do that?
So hoping that we'll have a next time where we'll do the real method, which is complex, but what you can do until now, I'll just tell you 2 minutes, something. So what you can really do, and I would advise you to, it has many, many effects, So it's when you are in the bed in the night, in the evening, your palms on the chest if you need, and evoke a moment of love. So something that warms your heart, first of all. You may feel that warm all over your body, okay? And then simply realize that oneness of the universe, at least manifest the intent to perceive that we are really children of the same God, if you want to say it, yeah? So the whole universe, realize that there is a oneness, even if you don't perceive it, it doesn't matter, there's there. And then simply do this. You can visualize only the expansion, your expansion that you're feeling with your consciousness. You're feeling the room, you're feeling that building where you are, your town, your country, and even outside, looking, embracing the earth with love, right? In the space. And then even further, if you can, like outside of the solar system and in the intergalactic space. And then again, come back, so you do this zoom in and zoom out a couple of times before sleeping. Okay. And simply then ask to the higher intelligence, to God, to whatever you call it, to your guardian angel, to your archetypes, to manifest however it's appropriate for you in your sleep, in your day, and then simply go to bed. You will see what's happening, and if you do this often times, something will change, guaranteed. And then you'll be ready for other things which will come in your life.
Super. I we will just gauge the interest of the audience, and I have a feeling that we will have another session on the same subject next week. This
Great.
is like the universe, a big, big, huge subject. So to respect that hugeness, we should not restrict ourselves to this one episode only. So, dear viewers, today we conclude our program here. If you think that such kind of education can be useful to you, please visit www.amitgoswami.org. We have a master's and PhD program on see, it is called Masters and PhD in Quantum Science of Health, Prosperity and Happiness. But it does not end there. It has subjects which will cover your entire life and then some. And this course, it has many mini courses, and it talks about a lot of aspects in your life where you will not find in the world any such program which targets those specific subjects. If you want to know more, please visit our website www.amitgoswami.org. And if you have any questions, you are most welcome to email us at info@amitgoswami.org. We'll be looking forward to your mail and respond to you very quickly. So thank you very much for being with us. And thank you, Dr. Goswami and Dr. Anisha, to share your views with our audience. And we leave in a note that more is to come. Thank you so much.